Sean not built for prison.
No, really heavy.
Yeah, he's not built for prison.
And Whack 100 wasn't lying. A new video just dropped showing Sean Kingston and his mom looking real rough behind bars. After being found guilty on all charges in their $1 million fraud scheme, Kingston is clearly not handling it well. The singer is now facing up to 20 years in the feds, and word is, he even broke down in tears. Let's get into it. The conviction and fallout. In a stunning turn of events that has sent shockwaves through the music industry, reggae fusion singer Sean Kingston and his mother, Janice Turner, were found guilty on all charges in their luxury fraud scheme trial on March 28, 2025. The verdict came after a federal jury in Miami deliberated for just 3.5 hours, determining that the mother-son duo had engaged in a sophisticated scheme to defraud luxury merchandise vendors of more than $1 million in property through fake wire transfer receipts. Sean Kingston, whose government name is Kingston Paul Anderson, and his 62-year-old mother are now looking at up to 20 years in the pen for each count, which is the max sentence for federal wire fraud cases. The conviction includes 1 count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and 4 counts of wire fraud, with sentencing set to go down on July 11, 2025, in front of U.S. District Judge David Leibowitz. The scene in the courtroom after the verdict was straight heartbreaking, with Kingston reportedly breaking down and begging U.S. Marshals to protect my mother, as Turner was immediately taken into custody. Turner, in her final moments of freedom, blew a kiss to her daughter, who mouthed, "I love you," as the authorities led her away. Meanwhile, Kingston got put on house arrest with an ankle monitor at his crib in Southwest Ranches, Florida. The evidence the feds brought to the table was straight fire. Text messages between Kingston and his mother were put on blast in court, exposing their whole scam operation. In one message that had the jury's jaws on the floor, Kingston told his mom, "Mother, you don't listen to me, and I told you to make a fake receipt," to which she responded, "Please screenshot and send it to him." These texts were the smoking gun, making it crystal clear they knew exactly what they were doing.
So like Sean Kingston, have y'all heard about the Sean Kingston shit?
That I do know.
Yeah,
Sean Kingston is definitely a scammer.
The scheme, which they ran from April 2023 to March 2024, had them flexing hard with high-end luxury items like a bulletproof Cadillac Escalade worth a cool $160K, watches and jewelry to the tune of $480K, and even a massive 232-inch LED TV, all without dropping a dime. According to the prosecution, Kingston and Turner would slide vendors fake wire transfer receipts to make them think they'd been paid, when in reality, they were just getting played. One of the victims who testified was Moshe Edery, a Fort Lauderdale jeweler who caught a raw deal after Kingston finessed him out of a $285,000 Audemars Piguet watch. The man lost his job and got blacklisted in the industry. This wasn't just about money. Kingston's scams were straight up destroying people's livelihoods and reputations.
And did he act with intent to defraud? Alongside his mother, Janice Turner, also charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and more.
You didn't need to run like that.
We heard from Turner herself in court.
But this wasn't the first time Kingston or his mother had been caught slipping with the law. Real talk, when Kingston first got signed to a record deal at around 17 or 18, his mom was already locked up for identity theft. As hip-hop personality 1090 Jake pointed out,
when Sean Kingston got signed, he was like maybe 17, 18 years old at the time. His mom was in prison for identity theft. So he grew up in this scammer kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, she already was doing it. And he just made it to where they could really do it.
This revelation adds a whole new layer to Kingston's story, suggesting that perhaps the environment he came up in normalized the scammer lifestyle. Turner had previously done a bid of nearly 1.5 years for bank fraud in 2006, getting caught stealing over $160K, which probably contributed to the family's financial and legal drama. The feds started closing in on Kingston and Turner in May 2024, when a SWAT team hit a lick on Kingston's rented mansion in Southwest Ranches, Florida, leading to Turner getting booked on fraud and theft charges. Kingston himself got hemmed up later that same day in California after performing at Fort Irwin. By July 2024, both of them had been indicted by a federal grand jury on 1 count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and 5 counts of wire fraud, setting the stage for the trial that would ultimately lead to them getting cooked in March 2025. The defense tried to play Kingston off as just a young buck who didn't know how to handle his bread rather than a calculated criminal. His own attorney painted him as a kid who spends too much money, a kid who isn't even aware of how much money he has, and described Turner as a protective mother. They tried to convince the jury that what went down were just civil disagreements rather than a deliberate scam operation, but that cap didn't work on the jury. The impact of this conviction goes way beyond just the legal consequences. Kingston's music career, which was already struggling, is now probably on ice indefinitely. The stigma of being a convicted scammer could seriously mess up any future collabs and brand partnerships, potentially bringing bring his whole music career to a screeching halt.
But the whole thing is, Vlad, when people's on their last leg, you ain't no telling what they could do. You know what they would do. I know what you saying. I understand.
But it wasn't even like, okay, like I get it. You're scamming to pay your rent.
The question everybody's asking is why a successful artist with hit songs and paid shows would risk it all to run scams. Tony Yayo from G Unit dropped this perspective.
Well, dude, why do you think someone who makes legal money and could do shows and, could put out more music starts to scam on the side?
I mean, sometimes I feel like it's the pressure of the industry and keeping up with like the Joneses and, you got to get Richard Millie's and like it goes back to the $10,000 jeans and, you know what I mean?
Yayo's take points to the pressure in the music industry to maintain a lavish lifestyle and the struggle that comes when an artist's bag starts shrinking. For Kingston, who caught lightning in a bottle early but couldn't keep the same energy and income in recent years, the temptation to supplement his legit earnings with scam money might have been too strong to resist. 1090, Jake offered another angle, suggesting that Kingston's upbringing in a household where scamming was normalized might have played a major role.
Look, I understand if you're a high school dropout, you can't really get a good job, and you're just trying to figure out ways to pay the bills, and scamming seems like an okay idea at the time, and you're just doing what you gotta do. But when you're Sean Kingston, you're being booked for shows.
As we look at the rise and fall of Sean Kingston, it's important to remember that behind the flashy facade of fame and fortune, there are often deeper struggles and pressures that can lead people down destructive paths. Kingston's story is a cautionary tale for those in the entertainment industry, showing how quickly your reputation and career can go up in smoke from making bad choices. In the next segment, we'll dig deeper into Kingston's history of legal troubles, the specifics of the fraud scheme that got him caught up, and the growing pattern of similar cases in the hip-hop community. A history of fraud and deception. Long before the current conviction that's threatening to send him to the feds for decades, Sean Kingston had been on some shady business with a troubling pattern of financial misconduct and legal drama that foreshadowed his eventual downfall. This history of running scams paints a picture of an artist who, despite his musical talents and opportunities, repeatedly got caught up in questionable financial schemes that ultimately caught up with him. In December 2020, well before the scheme that led to his current conviction, a warrant was issued for Kingston's arrest for grand theft related to an unpaid jewelry bill. The allegation was that he had finessed luxury jewelry but didn't pay up, facing potential penalties of up to 3 years in the pen if convicted. Sources like The Source and the Jasmine brand highlighted how serious it was, noting a $45,000 bail and public statements from jewelers who got burned, like Atlanta jeweler AP, who put Kingston on blast on social media. This incident, while not resulting in a separate conviction in the records review, appears to be part of a bigger pattern of running scams that later culminated in his 2024 to 2025 case. It suggests that Kingston had been on his finesse game for years before the current case came to light. In 2014, Kingston got his whips, including a Mercedes-Benz G-Class, Bentley, and Lamborghini, repossessed due to unpaid loans, further highlighting his money problems. By 2015, he was allegedly kidnapped over an $185,000 watch, ultimately costing him $225,000 to resolve the situation as part of ongoing financial beef. On August 30th, 2016, he was sued by jewelry company Aquamaster for $225,000 in unpaid jewelry, and in February 2018, a judge ordered him to pay $301,500 to the jeweler, suggesting that Kingston's fraudulent behavior with jewelry companies was a recurring issue. The Breakfast Club radio show put Kingston's reputation in the streets on blast, with DJ Envy asking about Kingston's parties at his house and making a reference to Scott Beasley that suggested Kingston had previously been involved in some sketchy activities.
What's going on at your house, man? You almost got my man Scott Beasley in trouble. What kind of parties do you have at the house?
Stop with this. What kind of parties?
You said this last time.
I'm young, I'm successful, I'm having fun, I'm turning up in LA, man.
In the same interview, Kingston caught heat about allegations of sexual misconduct, which he denied, but the conversation revealed that he had settled a civil suit rather than going to trial, with Charlamagne Tha God commenting,
I think you did it right. You did the Michael Jackson. Just let it go away. Absolutely.
Then you're going to go
move
into
on with your
court.
life.
Kingston later explained his decision to settle.
But to be honest with you, it was the best thing because I felt like if it was an ongoing thing, it would have kept being in the media.
I think you did it right. You did the Michael Jackson.
Beyond these issues, Kingston faced other personal and legal challenges, including a near-fatal jet ski accident in Miami in May 2011, which resulted in a fine of $180 for careless operation and required emergency open-heart surgery and a 23-day hospital stay. In May 2012, he was sued for trashing a Miami rental property and ordered to pay $77,000 in damages. More recently, on November 5th, 2021, Kingston was accused of assaulting a music video director and pulling a gun on him in Los Angeles, though his rep denied the claims and there's no record of charges or a conviction resulting from this incident. These recurring legal and financial issues suggest a pattern of behavior that eventually culminated in the significant fraud scheme that led to his current conviction. The most recent scheme, which went down from April 2023 to March 2024, involved Kingston and his mother scamming luxury merchandise vendors out of over $1 million in property through fake wire transfer receipts. The specifics of this scheme are particularly grimy. Kingston and Turner allegedly used his celebrity status to flex on victims and get them to release goods without payment, providing fake wire transfer receipts to convince sellers that they had been paid. The items obtained fraudulently included a bulletproof Cadillac Escalade worth $160,000, watches and jewelry worth $480,000, over $86,500 in furniture, and even a 232-inch LED TV.
The what? First of all,
$100,000.
What the f is $100,000 TV?
I gotta see the TV.
I gotta
That's
see the
cheap though for like a high-end TV, bro. Like
this
there's TVs right there for like $400,000.
What does that look like,
I've never seen a TV for $100,000.
The revelation about the ridiculously priced TV is particularly telling about Kingston's priorities and the excessive lifestyle he was trying to maintain through fraudulent means. Rapper and podcaster Wack 100 expressed his disbelief at the situation.
Sean Kingston. Yeah. Now, you've dealt with Sean Kingston before.
Yeah.
I know Sean Kingston. Cool dude. Nothing bad to say about him.
What they give him, 20 years, 10 years?
Him and his mom are facing 20 years each.
So did they get sentenced or?
No, not yet. They were found guilty for over $1 million in fraud. Jewelry, luxury vehicles, 200-inch TVs, an Escalade worth $160,000, jewelry worth $480,000.
What he was, now the jewelry I used to hear about, but I would hear he would like have the jewelers come to the video shoots to use it, and then he just like disappeared on it.
Not give it back.
The comment from Wack 100 highlights a practice that apparently Kingston had been on for a minute, where jewelers would provide ice for video shoots with the expectation that they would be returned, only for Kingston to allegedly dip with the items. Further insights into Kingston's scammer ways came from personal stories shared during discussions about his case. During one podcast, a host shared,
I have a funny story of my homeboy who was actually like, he does industry, and he even has like a personal encounter with Sean Kingston that went left, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is a scammer. Yeah, I explained it to sum it up. So basically, my homie, he a cameraman or whatever, and Sean Kingston booked him to go to Vegas. He had a tour, or not a tour, he had like 2 to 3 shows lined up in Vegas. Like, look, I'm gonna book you, come out here to come Vegas, whatever.
The story continues with the cameraman having his iPad case swapped by Kingston when he briefly left it in the car during a gas station stop, suggesting Kingston was on some petty thief vibes even in personal interactions. The story concludes with Kingston failing to provide the promised hotel room and payment, further indicating a consistent pattern of deceptive behavior.
Tell me he got paid.
He didn't get his back end, none of that. He got the front end, but the back, it was all fault.
Oh, damn.
This anecdote lines up with other stories that have emerged about Kingston's tendency to skip out on his financial obligations, creating a consistent pattern of behavior that ultimately led to his current legal troubles. The investigation that led to Kingston and Turner's arrests and subsequent conviction was conducted by the U.S. Secret Service, USS Miami, and the Broward Sheriff's Office, BSO, with prosecution handled by Assistant U.S. Attorneys Mark Anton and Trevor Jones. The case highlighted the sophistication of the fraud scheme and the deliberate nature of Kingston and Turner's actions. During the trial, evidence was presented showing that Kingston and Turner had used a script claiming connections like working with Justin Bieber and putting on a big show at a rental house to deceive victims. This calculated approach shows they weren't just making rookie mistakes. They were running a full-on scam operation, undermining any defense that portrayed Kingston as simply financially irresponsible rather than criminal. Kingston's mother, Janice Turner, was a major player in the scheme, described by the judge as the operator, fixer, and accountant. accountant behind the fraudulent activities. Her past criminal history, including previous convictions for identity theft and bank fraud, was cited as a factor in the judge's decision to immediately remand her into custody following the verdict. The relationship between Kingston and his mother appears to have been complex, with Kingston growing up in an environment where scamming was normalized. In a 2010 interview on The Breakfast Club, Kingston acknowledged his mother's past incarceration.
Your mom was in jail, right?
She was.
Right. Okay.
Mom was in jail.
What?
This what? Your mama
5 years. When we first came out.
5 years. 5 years. Jesus Christ. What she do? Yeah, Jamaican, man. It is. It's crazy, but you know.
Kingston went on to explain how his mother's incarceration actually inspired him to pursue success through legitimate means.
When she got locked up, it really gave me that inspiration, like, man, you know what I'm saying? Like, I gotta be the one to do something right with my life and do different, you know what I'm saying? Really make a positive statement.
The irony of this statement, given Kingston's current conviction for fraud, is wild. Despite his expressed intention to do something right with his life following his mother's incarceration, Kingston ultimately followed in her footsteps down the same scammer path. The severity of Kingston and Turner's crimes and the overwhelming evidence against them led to their conviction on all counts after just 3.5 hours of jury deliberation. Following the verdict, Turner was immediately taken into custody, while Kingston was placed under house arrest with electronic monitoring, required to post a bond of a home valued at $500,000 and $200,000 in cash. As Kingston and Turner wait for sentencing, scheduled for July 11, 2025, they're facing the possibility of up to 20 years in the pen for each count of wire fraud. The sentencing will likely consider various factors, including Kingston's health issues, he has a heart condition and asthma, and Turner's past criminal history, which could influence the final sentence. The current whereabouts of Kingston and Turner reflect their different situations. Kingston is under house arrest at his crib in Southwest Ranches, Florida, while Turner is in federal custody, likely at the Federal Detention Center, Miami, given its proximity to Fort Lauderdale where their trial went down. If they get sent to prison, they'll be assigned to federal joints managed by the Bureau of Prisons, BOP. The specific facilities will depend on factors such as security level, medical needs, and proximity to family. Possible federal prisons in Florida that could house them include Federal Correctional Institution Miami, a low-security facility for male inmates, Federal Correctional Institution Tallahassee, a low-security facility primarily for female inmates, or Federal Prison Camp Pensacola, a minimum security facility for male inmates. The consequences of this conviction extend far beyond the immediate legal penalties. Kingston's music career, which was already struggling in recent years, has likely been dealt a death blow. The stigma of being a convicted fraudster will make it extremely difficult for him to rebuild trust in the industry, potentially ending his career trajectory altogether. The aftermath and industry impact. The reaction from fans and the community has been mostly negative, with many expressing shock and disappointment at Kingston's actions. On platforms like Reddit, particularly in subreddits like R Music and R Hip Hop Heads, users have been going in on Kingston. One commenter noted, he could have made a good living singing beautiful girls at every bar mitzvah in America. He got greedy, highlighting how Kingston had legit options for income but chose to run scams instead. Others shared personal encounters with Kingston's shady behavior, with one Reddit user stating, "This guy scammed a local venue I work at for an after party that he got paid in advance and then never showed up," reinforcing the pattern of financial misconduct that has now been legally established. One user criticized Kingston's past, with one stating, "He has a history of running off on plugs, exposed on X, not surprising." Another commenter humorously remarked, Jamaica claiming him should change his name to Sean Mobay, blending cultural commentary with criticism. On our pop culture chat, users noted, "Sean just uses his name to get free because that's his only claim to relevance," highlighting the perception that Kingston had been leveraging his celebrity status inappropriately for financial gain. While social media platforms like X, formerly Twitter, have seen less personal commentary on the case, news updates have been widely shared. For instance, a post from The Jasmine brand on May 6, 2025 shared, "Sean Kingston seeks one-night house arrest release for festival performance while awaiting fraud conviction sentencing, indicating his attempt to continue performing despite his legal troubles." Another post from BET_current on May 8, 2025 noted, "Sean Kingston won't be hitting Milwaukee's Summerfest stage. A judge denied his request to perform ahead of sentencing for wire fraud charges, showing the immediate impact of his conviction on his ability to perform." Interestingly, despite the high-profile nature of the case, there's been a notable lack of public commentary from Kingston's peers in the music industry. No direct reactions from known music industry figures were found on social media platforms, suggesting a reluctance to speak publicly on Kingston's legal issues. issues, possibly due to the sensitivity of commenting on legal matters involving peers, or perhaps a desire to keep their distance from the situation. However, within hip-hop media, several personalities have discussed Kingston's case and offered their perspectives. Wack 100, a well-known figure in hip-hop, expressed doubts about Kingston's ability to handle prison life.
Was that one piece, or did he just keep coming back, giving the dude jury?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure about the details. But facing 20 years, him and his mother. And his mother is obviously older, doesn't look like she's in great health. And I think he was like screaming for his mother and stuff like that because she's
been to prison before, right?
She has.
They're gonna give her more time than him.
Oh.
Because of her priors.
Because of her priors. I just, man, like, I remember.
Sean not built for prison.
No.
This assessment raises concerns about Kingston's potential adjustment to life behind bars, adding a human dimension to the legal consequences he faces. Wack 100 continues.
Really heavy.
Yeah, he's not built for prison.
Yeah.
It's, you know, he's a big kid.
Yeah, I mean, he came into it when he was like 17.
Yeah, he's a big kid. He's a slick dude. You know what I'm saying? But he's a Jamaican or something?
Yeah, he's Jamaican. Yeah, hence the name, Kingston. I mean, look.
This commentary touches on Kingston's persona and background, suggesting that despite his slick demeanor, prison would be particularly challenging for him, considering his temperament and lifestyle. 1090, Jake offered a similar assessment, expressing bewilderment at Kingston's decision to engage in fraud despite having legitimate income opportunities.
You've worked with Justin Bieber and a whole bunch of other artists. You could work with more artists and people actually respect you out there because you've been around. And you're doing all this to get a whole bunch of luxury items?
Yeah.
Escalades and jewelry and 200-inch TVs.
Tony Yayo from G Unit provided insight into the pressure artists face to maintain appearances in the industry.
So now he goes in, you go on your shell, you're like, hey, man, I gotta get it on my own, man. You go get change, you go get cars, you scam, do whatever you do supposedly, but you got found guilty, so I guess you're guilty. And you trying to impress that don't give a fuck about you, and that don't give a fuck about you. See, that's where the game is up.
This commentary highlights a critical aspect of the music industry's culture, the pressure to stunt and flex wealth and success, even when your bank account doesn't match the image. This real talk points to a broader issue within hip-hop culture, where flossing wealth is often considered essential for maintaining status and respect, potentially driving artists like Kingston to desperate measures when legitimate income slows down. Kingston's case is far from isolated within the hip-hop community. Several other rappers have caught similar charges and convictions for fraud and financial crimes in recent years. These cases reveal a troubling pattern that extends beyond individual incidents to suggest a broader issue within the industry. Fontrell Antonio Baines, known as Nuke Bizzle, was arrested in October 2020 and convicted of access device fraud, aggravated identity theft, and interstate transportation of stolen property. He scammed the California Employment Development Department out of over $1.2 million in unemployment benefits during the COVID-19 pandemic using stolen identities to access funds. Like Kingston, Baines used deceptive means to fraudulently obtain financial benefits, though his scheme targeted government benefits rather than businesses. JT, Jatavia Johnson, from the rap duo City Girls, was convicted of credit card fraud and served a nearly 2-year bid beginning in July 2018, with release in March 2020. Her case involved using fraudulent credit cards, similar to Kingston's financial deception, though on a smaller scale. Self-Made Cash, Jonathan Woods, was charged in March 2019 with wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, and possession of unauthorized access devices. He rapped about credit card fraud in songs like Swipe School and Swipe God, and sold fraudulent information on how to commit such crimes, which was often worthless. His case parallels Kingston's in using fraud to deceive for financial gain, with both leveraging their public personas to facilitate schemes. Terrence Bender, a Chicago rapper known as Blends or Dopa Blends, pleaded guilty in November 2024 to conspiracy to commit wire fraud, scamming victims out of over $100,000. He and co-defendants used stolen payment information to purchase luxury items like private jet charters and designer puppies, mirroring Kingston's fraudulent acquisition of luxury goods. G. Herbo, Herbert Wright III, pleaded guilty in July 2023 to wire fraud conspiracy and making false statements, sentenced in January 2024 to 3 years probation and ordered to pay restitution and fines totaling over $280,000. He was involved in a scheme defrauding businesses of over $1 million using stolen credit card information for luxury purchases, strikingly similar to Kingston's case in both method and scale. Willie D, a member of the Ghetto Boys pleaded guilty to wire fraud in December 2009, involved in a scam using stolen credit card information. Like Kingston, Willie D's case involved wire fraud through deceptive financial practices, though it focused on credit card fraud rather than luxury item acquisition. These cases collectively highlight a concerning trend within the hip-hop community of artists turning to fraud and financial crimes, often when their music careers face challenges or their income doesn't match their desired lifestyle. The similarity in methods and motivations suggests systemic issues that extend beyond individual moral failings to broader cultural and industry pressures. Discussing the impact of Kingston's conviction on his career, it's clear that the consequences will be severe and potentially permanent. Prior to this case, Kingston's music career was already on the decline. His second album, Tomorrow, released on September 22, 2009, peaked at #37 on the Billboard 200, a significant drop from his debut album's #6 position. His third studio album, Back to Life, released on September 10, 2013, failed to chart and marked his final release on a major label. His fourth album, Road to Deliverance, released on September 30, 2022, didn't regain his earlier momentum, reflecting a struggle to stay relevant in a competitive industry. Now, with a fraud conviction and the prospect of prison time, Kingston's ability to revive his career seems like a long shot at best. If you love this video, then click on the card showing on your screen for more videos like this.